Very interesting from the point of view of Mr. Bennet, because however lightly he makes of it all, you know, this is the black crow sitting on his life, and William Collins is going to inherit the house. And he says to Elizabeth, I think he will give us a great deal of fun. I always feel that isn't just quite, I always feel it's very psychologically interesting of Mr. Bennet, who must be feeling pretty bad about it all, actually, and slightly resentful, however benign he may be.
There was one particular line, and I paraphrase, forgive me, Jane Austen scholars, but it was something like, I think it was when he was first sitting down and really pouring out his heart to Elizabeth Bennet in the drawing room. And he says, my dearest wish was to be a clergyman. And you just think, this is such absolute rubbish. It's fantastically barefaced lie.
He intended me for the church. And it was my dearest wish to enter into that profession.
Great fun, really good.
I remember a shot in the middle. It's not a particularly, it wasn't a particularly dramatic shot, although it wasn't one of the great turning points of the story or anything, but it was just a shot of Colin and myself, and I think another act, I think it was Rupert Van Sittert possibly, who played my brother-in-law, returning back to my house after a day's shooting. And we were right in the middle of the filming, and it seemed like we'd been doing it for 2 months, and there was 2 months to go, and it was, it really felt like we'd gone back in time in a way, because we struck up a lot of relationships with each other, healthy relationships with each other, in much the same sort of pattern as the story itself. So I was great friend chums with Colin, and then we'd go and see all these girls who were acting and chat about them and things. And it was funny. It almost seemed, that we'd really almost become those characters. And I just remember wandering back, with the camera was behind us, I think, on it, and the sun's going down. I think the shot's in there somewhere, walking towards the house, and really feeling totally absorbed in it.
I do remember filming the big ball scene. That's a very memorable scene with all the amazing food that they created, and it was about 5 days worth of filming, that whole scene, so that was an extraordinary experience.
In Jane Austen, balls and dances are really important because they always shift the story on. Important things always happen during those scenes, so they're very important to get onto film. And in Pride and Prejudice, there are two very, very important ones. There's the early one, which is the first time Elizabeth and Darcy meet and decide that they dislike each other. And that is supposed to be a sort of local hop more than a grand ball. It's just in the local town, and everybody thinks he's too grand to enjoy himself there. And we shot the outside of that in Laycock, but we couldn't actually find a suitable interior. And so, having searched around and we couldn't find it, we decided to shoot that at Ealing Studios.
A lot of manuals exist of music and steps for dances, and so all those dances that people did either in their room or at these various balls were actually taken from these dance manuals, and the choreography was developed from these instructions. So that was quite interesting, actually looking for all that and choosing out of a mass of stuff.
They're also very difficult to shoot because you have many more cast than usual. Everybody's dressed up more than usual, all their hair's dressed up more than usual, so you have a lot more makeup people, costume people, props. There's always food and drink involved, so you get a lot more technical people. You usually have more than one camera shooting. You sometimes have Steadicam moving in and out of the dancers. So they're always enormous shooting days. So they're obviously much easier to control if you do them in a studio, which is purpose-built to film in. Having said that, we then chose to do the Netherfield ball on location. In fact, we shot it in 2 locations because there's a pre-ball scene where everybody's arriving, which we shot at our location for Netherfield Hall. And then people go through into the dance, and then there's a supper scene later where they come out of the dance into the supper scene. Now, that bit in the ballroom was shot 3 weeks later and 100 miles away. So you actually see people walk from one room into another and cut 3 weeks and to a completely different location. And we needed something that looked very, very grand for that, for the ballroom. And that would have been a very expensive thing to build. So we decided to shoot it. It was shot at Brocket Hall, actually. And that took a week to shoot that scene, the dance scene, because there are many, many dances, a lot happens at it. It was the hottest week of the year. We had so many film lights on. We had over 100 people, not counting the crew. We had musicians. It was hell.
Well, there is a scene where the daughter Mary, who of course is the plain girl, the one that they think they're going to have most trouble marrying off. She doesn't do anything with herself. She dresses in a rather sort of drab way. But one thing she can do is play the piano very badly.
I was playing the piano, but what I'd done is I'd learnt all the pieces on a keyboard at home, and then I mimed to playback.
What you hear is me playing.
I very, very much wanted it to look that she, as if she really was playing, because I don't like it when I see actors sort of generally being in the right place in a keyboard, because you sort of go, oh, they're not playing. So, and because it was such a huge part of her and her character that she spent a lot of time every day practicing the piano, I felt that it was very important to make sure that I was always absolutely in the right place.
There's so much going on in that scene. There's Callan Collins, who's trying to ingratiate himself to Darcy. There's the two girls are trying to prevent Mary getting to the piano. And then when she does get there and she starts singing in this terrible warbling voice, we're all sitting around pretending that it's lovely.
And she cannot hit the right notes, it's just appalling. But Mrs. Bennet, like every good mother, doesn't see that. I mean, she might as well be a concert pianist as far as Mrs. Bennet's concerned. You don't see the faults, dear, you only see the good things. And poor Mr. Bennet, long-suffering Mr. Bennet.
And I remember I did one thing which I never thought would be caught on the film. She did a sort of full stop, and I went like this to clap my hands, as if to say, thank God it's over. But in fact, she went on, so I just went like that, and I thought, well, they won't get that on the film. But Simon Langton got it, and there were the lovely things, and then the dog howling outside.
I know, that was rather unfair. That I didn't know they were going to do that.
I just thought it was a hilarious scene from start to finish.
You do extremely well, child. You've delighted us long enough. Let the other young ladies have time to exhibit.
Jane Austen didn't write scenes between men because she didn't feel that she knew how they behaved when they were by themselves. But with our adaptation, Andrew Davies thought it was very important to show how the story kicked off. And I think he wanted to have an early image, that this was going to be about sort of thrusting young men. But what he did was go to think, what is the initial event of this story? And of course it's Mr. Bingley moving into the area. And he very much favoured me in that shot. And also, of course, he wanted to hold back Mr. Darcy. But really, I think the impression he tried to create was, as I say, one of youthful energy and perhaps a suggestion of something sexual in the horses' bodies and things like that. So I think it works very well. And they were very worried about that shot, I remember, because they thought, everyone knows how Pride and Prejudice starts.
It's always very important when you're doing a title theme that you're able to express some of the ideas that are in the novel. The novel becomes a sort of Bible, you have to kind of keep going back to that, and it kind of gives you material. And there were two basic ideas I thought that are in the novel, which I thought the music could help express. One is the idea that the piece is based on a hunt. The women of this family are hunting for husbands and their fortune, and it was important in their society that they be married. one had to find some motif which would be part of that, and I thought really quite basically and graphically I could do a kind of 18th century hunting call, like a whoop, 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 you know, something of these sort of baying dogs and people going, except it was going to be the women hunting their husband, and it was going to be in this sort of aggressive